Hey everyone, it's Rayce Robinson, your favorite Florida mortgage broker. Hope you're doing awesome. Doing the numbers here, the market watch for Central Florida here for June, which really covers up until the end of May. And wow, what a difference a couple months makes. It's been about 45, almost 50 days since I've done the last video. And again, this covers up numbers to the end of May. But man, it is ridiculously, the only word I could think of, busy. And if you look at the numbers across the nation, and new loan applications and real estate transactions, the market is really on fire. And part of that is what I had said before in a previous video. I also wrote an article here locally for Look Local magazine where I was saying that I thought this summer would probably be some of the most record numbers in the mortgage and real estate business because so many people were waiting to buy, obviously to get past the epidemic, to make sure their jobs are going to be okay. And then on top of that, you have really, really low rates, more loan programs than ever. It's just really an incredible time to buy. So no further ado, let's just look at the numbers. So I got them right here. I'm just going to run down the ones that I think are important to homeowners and people that are looking here at the Central Florida market. So the inventory, and this is always the magic number because the inventory is what really is the driver of the market. Now, if you have too many houses, then obviously that changes the market, and too little houses changes the market as well. If you have really low inventory, you're having technically more of a seller's market, and we have really low inventory. We're down to 7,260 homes, and we haven't been down that low really almost all year. A couple months we were that low, which means part of that is there were people that were holding off doing listings, and I'm going to cover some of the numbers for new listings. But wow, 7,260 homes for the Central Florida market is really, really low. 5,200 of those, or 5,207 of those, were single family homes. So there were, in April, there was 2,800 new listings. In May, there was 3,717 new listings. So a huge increase. But here's the big one. New homes under contract in April, 2,224. And in May, 3,572. Now what's interesting is sales closed stayed about the same. In April, they were 2,393, and in May, they were 2,127. And I can tell you part of that is from being in the mortgage industry, it's just taking a little longer to close deals, a lot of people going to contract, a lot of people refinancing. And so I think you're going to see, as this year goes on, those sales numbers are going to drastically increase, along with all the other numbers that are really increasing. Let's see, 48 days for the average home on the market. It was 47 homes. It's pretty much been about that. It means if you have your house priced right, it's going to sell fast in this market. The median price, 260. I think last month was 263 or between 260 and 265. Let's call it. That number kind of moves around. So everything has really, really increased. Inventory stayed low, which is keeping demand high. There's so many people trying to buy because we're definitely a very payment-driven society. People drive cars and buy houses based on what they can afford a month, myself included. And so with low rates, it means the affordability of houses has really went up. So two things. One, what does all this mean for right now for buying a house this year? And two, I always like to give you my opinion. I'm doing this for the last 18 years. On what I think is going to happen, in the market going forward, really past this year and really over the next few years. So should you buy a house this year, and really what's going to happen going forward? So this year is going to be a great year. If there was a complete market shutdown for 4 months, but if you were to just take from April to December, I think it will be really a record year with the amount of people that will buy. But obviously with a complete market shutdown, there's some ground to make up. And Freddie Mac put that study out at the beginning of the year where they felt that by the end of the year, in most markets, you would have a net positive. And if you look at the growth of numbers around the country, that's absolutely going to be the case. And I believe that unemployment was definitely going down. It is continuing to go down. Of course, there's lots of lingering effects to the virus. I don't want to underplay that or with the market shutdown. But in general, businesses are opening up and things are starting to return. And the real estate market is reflecting that. So as far as buying goes, it is a seller's market in the sense houses are selling fast. But at the same time, it's a buyer's market because you're never going to get lower payments. I personally have refinanced. Almost everyone I know has refinanced. The rates are really low. So again, rates, payments, all that is a big driver of the housing market. So what will happen though after this year? And that is really the $1,000,000 question, is the long-term health and what's going to happen in the real estate market. Looking at YouTube, at least in my feed, there's a million videos about the stock market going to crash, a real estate market going to crash, everything's going to end. And really, those headlines are always going to be there. They've been there forever. You could look at that 5 years ago and there were people saying the same thing. And I don't have a crystal ball. So there are obviously some headwinds coming up. You have an election year. You have potential, people worried about a second outbreak. You do still have record unemployment. And you have all these things that have to play out. And anyone tells you that markets are not cyclical are not being straight with you. Real estate, gold, silver, stocks, it's all cyclical. So the real estate market could at some point in the future slow down. I definitely don't see that happening this year. But if you're buying a house to live in, I've done other videos on this, and I'm not going to get too into this on this, but it really doesn't matter. If you buy a house and you're going to live there for a while, markets are going to go up and down. If you're investing in flipping houses, that's a whole different thing. But for most people, myself included, when you're buying a house to live in, if you can afford the payment, which right now the payment's really affordable, you're buying a house for the long term. And so, going 2, 3, 4 years out, I really personally am interested to see, all this money printing, all the things that have been done, all the programs the Fed has put in. And, they really have backstopped the market. So I'm really curious to see how all that plays out. My opinion, we'll see, because I'll probably see if this video ages well over time, is that I think the market will slow down a little next year. I don't think that, having a market slow down is way different than having a market crash, which is what some people hear, which is what happened in 2008 and 9, where the markets just stopped. I don't really see that happening, but I think there are some headwinds with jobs, and a lot of that has to play out, and really we'll see. So I'm pretty optimistic that the housing market stays fairly strong over the next 3 to 4 years. Things like the stock market and stuff like that, I think they're going to be bouncing around. But again, I don't think there's going to be a stock market crash or something where the entire economy shuts down. So in general, I feel like the housing market continues to trickle up in appreciation. People that are buying and waiting to buy a house in the next market crash, unfortunately, will probably be waiting a long time. I just talked to a friend of mine who was going to buy a crash during the last crash, and then he didn't. But then he finally waited too long, so then he didn't buy because then he felt he missed the bottom. But then he didn't. It's been 15 years he never bought a house. So that being said, I always say, you're buying a house to live in. If you're thinking of buying a house or refinancing, there has never been a better time right now, this second. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'd love to help. I hope everyone is having their own personal recovery. Stay safe. Be good to yourself, your neighbors, and everyone else. We can use a little of that right now. Hope you're doing awesome. Let me know what I can do to help. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.